It almost feels like the screen comes to life, if you will. I will just create a quick and basic camera movement for this one. Keyframing the point of interest and the position of the camera. Use the tools to move in the camera, the orbit around. Create this orbiting or kind of spinning movement around a curved path by adjusting the position. Then the pan under combines the position and point of interest to make it move sideways and up or down, while the dolly towards cursor tool lets us adjust the perception of depth, going a bit closer or further away from objects. You could possibly use this on just a normal layer and a separate camera layer will be created. But to actually see the effect of this a little bit better, let's go for a pre-made camera movement. Right-click the layer, go to Camera and create Stereo 3D Rig. Thus, 3 different compositions are created. One with the main composition Stereo 3D and 2 separate ones. One for the left eye and the other for the right eye. And scrolling through the timeline a bit, between the keyframes where the animation is happening, we see this slightly distorted or separated effect. So what we just created here is a so-called stereoscopic 3D rig, and it basically creates 2 different type of camera views, one for your left eye and one for the right eye. And the combination of these 2 kind of try to create a perception of depth to mimic a real life moment, as in combination with different type of sizing, blurriness and stereopsis. Stereopsis meaning the actual difference between objects or their spacing between each other. And together this creates the perception of depth, like almost as if you're watching a screen and the object's almost popping out at you or shrinking into the screen. Perhaps as you've been to a film or a cinema watching Avatar, whenever you're having this fancy blue and red glasses on, and it almost feels like the screen comes to life, if you will. If you actually try to watch this small 3D moment again with those red and blue anaglyph glasses, it should be a completely different stereo experience. The effect might be understood a little bit more and is also controllable under the effect controls. So furthest up here we got the configuration. Whenever the placement of the main or master camera shall be center, as in between the left and the right camera, or you can use the hero left for the left camera and the hero right for the right one. The stereo scene depth is the main controller of the amount of stereoscopic effect which should be applied, whereas at 0 there's nothing, and the higher we increase it, the more of the effect will be applied. And increasing this effect kind of spreads out the 2 cameras and creating this type of separation between them 2. And thus also the amount of the perceived depth in the scene. So meaning how much the objects actually appear to shrinking into the screen or popping out of it. And it kind of replicates the distance between the eyes, if they are going or expanding further out or shrinking together more into the center. And thus the objects will be appearing more distance or closer together from each other horizontally. But just don't go way too crazy with this effect. Coming up, we got some so-called convergence options. Convergence here meaning the actual point of where the 2 cameras, where the right camera and the left camera meet. So just as this little point where they intersect or meet. And by taking this on, this will add a so-called toe-in effect and mimicking the kind of slight angling of our eyes when looking at an object in real life, giving a bit further control to it. As a bit of rule of thumb, this should be used with a little bit of precaution whenever you are trying to mix up real life cameras or real life footage together with some digital creations, as a little bit of distortions will be introduced. So as a good rule of thumb, it might be a good idea to only use it on actual digital creations, as in 3D objects within After Effects. Moreover, we're able to control if the converge shall be to the default camera point of interest, to the camera position or just to the zoom distance. Plus, adjusted a bit with the offset of the set to both the negative and to the positive. There are some alternatives for the 3D glasses effect, where the left and the right view can be changed either to none, the stereo 3D controls, the default one at the main composition left eye, and here versus the right one below. Either purely the original and the source layer, perhaps if masks are used, or if you're using both effects and masks. Possibly also add even more convergence with the scene convergence to it. Dropping down to under its options, as the percentage is currently red here, it means that there is some type of expression connected to that value. Bear in mind though that this is only recommended to use when you're not actually already using a convergence cameras as with an offset above, as both of the ones will be counted to the final rendering, and preferably it should be used for live cameras or live footage. But then it's also doable to adjust here for the vertical alignment if needed, to the negative and also to the positive. The units showing in either percentage of the source or pixels after preference. Then swap left right can temporarily invert the effect or changing the order of what is perceived as popping out of the screen versus sinking into it. And it seems to be there almost as a type of controller for any type of misalignment, or as temporarily change the perception just to check if there is actually something weird or something odd or wrong in the actual scene. Under 3D view, we're currently at the balanced color red-blue. With this effect, we can actually open and connect directly to a TV monitor and start edit on that one if it actually supports 3D. Thus, there's a few choices in the top that should match your screen view, as stereo pair side by side, over under, or the interlaced upper L or lower R. And for the difference, used whenever you're working with, for example, parallel live cameras instead of an actual convergence camera. Anytime you want to find the convergence plane a little bit easier, meaning the actual point at directly on the screen when objects appear to be directly on the screen within an actual 3D space, seen by those objects or certain areas of them are turning black. We got the red-green LR, which means that the left view will become green and the right view will become red, while instead the red-blue LR gives left view blue coloring and the right view a red coloring. And same things happening below with the two balanced ones as the two just mentioned, but this makes an extra effort, if you will, to trying to reduce ghosting as a kind of double image effect and shadows of it. Ultimately, adjust how much balancing and the overall effect opacity under the compositing options.